Well, well. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Cloud English podcast. It is March 3rd, 2033, and it's great to be here. It's great to have you here. Today, we're going to be talking about English descriptions, how you can make good ones, the difference between a good description and a bad description, and, trying to understand what a description is more basically, right? And we're going to be looking then at some tools to try to get a better feeling for that, because it's tough. It's not simple. We're going to be spending a little time in ChatGPT, and I'll also be answering some questions throughout. If you have any of those and you're watching this live, what else? We're going to be actually looking at a video we're going to be learning a couple of words from the recent news of this guy, Alex Murdo, I think is how you pronounce his name, who was sentenced recently. We're going to look at what that means exactly. We're going to learn a few words from the news. And we're also going to talk about how we can build adjectives with hyphens. If you can believe it, you can do that. You can make your own adjectives. It's not, I would say, totally free and open, but there's a lot of creativity that's available when it comes to adjectives, using adjectives and making adjectives. All right. So right at the beginning here, to those watching, if you're interested in ever listening, maybe you like to take walks or do your laundry, or you're driving in the car and you want to just listen, you can find the Cloud English podcast on any major podcast app, whether that's Amazon or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you're listening already there, welcome. Hello. It's good to have you. More and more people are choosing the audio version, which is great to see, or rather great to hear. Ha ha ha. So if you want, you can watch. We are also live every Friday on YouTube and Facebook. Let's just say YouTube and Facebook, because I don't think anybody watches anything on Twitter. Nobody does that, right? Let's see. What else have we got? Also, if you enjoy the videos, if you enjoy the content that I do, you can feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, support wherever you can algorithmically to boost the show. That would be fantastic. I would deeply appreciate it. That's honestly the best thing you can do to help at this point. So tap the old like button or thumbs up or whatever it is. And if you want, you can get a free course, Natural English Conversations. That course is in the links in the description, and it's an hour long. It's about having natural English conversations, and I think it's a pretty good place to start when it comes to taking my courses. I'm just about to launch a new pronunciation course, so I'm very excited for that. I should be launching that probably over the weekend. So it's Friday now, either Saturday or Sunday, at the latest Monday. But that course is all ready to go, and I'm very excited to launch it. That course is going to be focusing on exercises that you can do to improve your pronunciation, because improving pronunciation is all about habits. It really is. If you don't have good habits, it's actually very challenging to improve your pronunciation when you're speaking, for example, without having to think about it, right? Anything else? Is there anything else? I don't think so. Oh, yeah, well, I'll mention the Discord. If you're interested in having a community where you can chat and share and post and whatever, the Discord would be a great place for that. That is a free community that you can join. It's basically a chat group, and it's growing all the time. We're having some good conversations there, so feel free to join that in the links in the description. All right? All right. Now, we're going to get started with we're going to get started with how we can, let's say, understand more about description, right? And the power of description. So that's what we're gonna take a look at, right? So I'm gonna pop over here to the blackboard, and then we'll take a look at this, right? What makes a description really vivid? When you hear it, when you see it, someone's telling a story, you're reading a book, what is it that makes it really good, really vivid? Well, it's not one thing. There are a few elements. But I want to spend a little time talking about this. Now, this is generally, I think, useful as part of a foundation in English knowledge. And the example we're going to look at, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you use in everyday spoken English, right? If you use the language that we're going to use or look at in our example in everyday spoken English, you might sound a bit odd. But if you're telling a story, maybe not. That might be much more natural in spoken English. If you're writing something, much more natural, right? So I want to just give you a sense for this. And I've got a description here that I'm going to read, and then we're going to kind of analyze it, okay? So just listen along. It's a very short description of a sunset, basically. But it's not just a sunset, right? We're adding a lot. I want you to think about, as I read through this, what we're adding exactly. What are the things that make it sound like it does, okay? Here we go. The sun sank slowly into the horizon, painting the sky with fiery hues of orange and red. The clouds looked like they were on fire, glowing with a warmth that belied the cool breeze that blew against my skin. As the last rays of light disappeared over the edge of the world, the stars emerged like diamonds on a velvet canvas, sparkling and twinkling in the darkening sky. Okay, so that's pretty vivid, right? You can picture a lot of stuff, feel a lot of stuff when you experience that, whether you're reading it or hearing it, right? Well, why? What are the pieces? Maybe first we can take a look at a simpler version. If we were going to kind of not dumb it down, but just simplify it, what might we say? At the end of the day, the sun went down and the sky changed color. The clouds looked warm and the stars came out. So is there anything wrong with that? Is that bad? No, it's not bad. It's clear, right? Straightforward. That's what happened. But we might not experience as much. We might not have the same emotional impression. We don't get as much from that description visually in our imaginations, especially if this is written, right? I like to tell stories, though, and when I tell stories, I try to use more of this type of language because I want people to feel more, right? Of course, you don't want to always say the sun sank slowly into the horizon. Sometimes you just want to say, after sunset. It depends on the situation. So the simplest way to say this would be something like, the sun went down and it got dark. That is the absolute simplest way we could say that. The sun went down and it got dark. But what is it about our example here that makes it kind of vivid? Well, I think first it's the descriptive language that we use, right? We're using language that creates an image. And when you're describing things and your goal is to create an image, you want to use specific words that have images kind of baked into them, if that makes sense, right? Now, you could say the sun went down, but yeah, that's an image of the scene, but a single word that contains an image can make things more visual and add to the imagination. Words like fiery, very clear picture there, right? Glowing, We can picture what that means. Velvet. Oh, I can see how smooth it is, and there's that kind of sheen on velvet. Sparkling, twinkling. These kind of make people feel something because they're engaging their senses, right? So if you're trying to describe something really vividly, I'm not saying make it as kind of formal as this. I'm saying think about some of those vivid words you might use, which will add to the meaning of your description and grab people, make them feel something, right? Connect more to their senses. We also use, though, figurative language here, which is very interesting. This is where we say not something that's actually there, but we make a comparison, right? We might use a metaphor or a simile. These are to make a comparison to make people picture something or what something is like. If I say it was as smooth as a boiled egg, right? My friend recently lost all of his hair, and I asked if I could touch it, his bald dome, and it was as smooth as a boiled egg. So if I just say it was very smooth, that is not quite as very visceral and vivid as saying it was as smooth as a boiled egg, right? So when we say diamonds, like diamonds on a velvet canvas, right? When we use that kind of figurative language, it's not really diamonds. Stars are not really diamonds. It's not really a canvas. But that kind of language makes it pop a bit and can, again, activate people's imaginations. And I think make people, in general, just feel more. People feel more when you use that kind of figurative language, right? You don't have to, of course, but it can be, I think, very interesting. Now, we also are focusing on the senses, which I think is key. I mentioned choosing words that might activate the senses, right? But when you're describing something that has different senses, see if you can include them. It's sort of like listening to the radio is activating only one sense. Watching a documentary is activating two, visual and audio, right? So there's something more immersive about that. Can you create that immersive environment with the language that you choose, right? So the sensation of the cool breeze that belies the warmth, the warmth that belies the cool breeze, a warmth that belied the cool breeze that blew against my skin. So I can put myself in that position and kind of imagine what that would be like. And so this description is not just visual, describing the sun going down over the horizon. It's also activating my imagination about how that might feel in that moment, right? So you're closer to experiencing it yourself. And this could be very simple. You're describing coming home from work and the power's out, and you could say, I walked into my apartment, I unlocked the door, and I was so scared because I couldn't see anything. But then you could say, and I felt prickles moving up my spine, right? And I heard creaks and groans from beneath the floor and from other apartments. And I thought maybe from the corner as well. So adding these layers, it makes it more immersive when you're describing something, right? So I think that's also something to consider, as well as the emotional part. That contrast between the warmth and the heat could be kind of an emotional thing because you have this cold darkness coming, but then this warmth which maybe gives you a bit more of an emotional sense. Now that's kind of hard to say, right? That depends very much on what you're trying to describe, right? But just if you can, trying to think about your emotional states when you're in that, if you're telling a story, and then adding those things to make the description overall more vivid, more clear, and have a kind of emotional resonance that's going to make it, I think, more interesting and more vivid. Okay? So Those are just a few high-level things that you can think about as you are describing stuff in English. If you have any questions about that, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, feel free to check out my free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. All right. Okay. Excuse me. I had that cough coming for a while. I see we have more people joining live. That's fantastic. Hello, Mafia. Describing is the hardest part to understand when reading. Yeah, it certainly can be. I agree with that. Descriptions can be difficult. This is the difference often between literature and fiction, rather, and nonfiction. Fiction tends to be a little bit more vivid and descriptive, setting the scene, adding a lot of details, using a lot of adjectives, and nonfiction tends to be a bit more just saying what's going on. There's descriptive language, but it's usually a little simpler and more focused on the what rather than the how. 8th grade English, I believe, is what they say about that. All right. Well, I want to keep playing with this. I think it's really interesting to use tools to explore different ways of describing. And I don't think there's this one simple tool that I can give anyone that's going to just automatically teach you everything you need to know about description. It really is a matter of kind of playing around, poking around, and getting a feel for it, right? So what we're going to do now is play around a bit with ChatGPT in terms of descriptions, how we can describe things, adding details and removing details and changing things. So this is actually a great tool to use when you want to explore alternative ways to mention things, say things, express things. You can use this for emails, you can use it for articles, for all kinds of things. But we're just going to kind of play with that. I see Jesus says no subtitles. Well, this is live, Jesus, so I don't know how I can do subtitles live. If that's possible, awesome. But I don't think it is. Okay. So let's hop over to ChatGPT. Here we go. How can you describe things or learn to describe things better using ChatGPT? How can you use it to find alternatives for changing the wording, the tone of something that you've already written? We're going to explore this for descriptions, but I want to mention that you can also do this for other types of writing that you're doing. If you are writing an email to a colleague, if you're writing an announcement, if you're writing an overview of something, you want to consider it like a relationship that you have, a dialogue that you're having with ChatGPT, rather than just throwing it over to ChatGPT and assuming it's okay. You might not like some things it says, you might make some revisions, some adjustments, and you can do that in a number of ways. That's what we're going to explore here, okay? So I'm just going to paste in here a basic description. Well, not basic, I mean a fairly in-depth description. And the description is the team was under a tight deadline to complete a difficult technical project with intricate components, but they persevered through late nights and early mornings, driven by determination and expertise, and succeeded in the end. Well, what if I've got that and, I've asked for a response, but I didn't ask anything. I just pasted it. What if I want this? What if this is too descriptive? It's too formal sounding. All right, so what you can do there when you're playing with this is say something like, rewrite this with a more casual tone, paste. And then you see what you get. So there was this team that had a super hard project to do, and they had to finish it really quick. It was tough with lots of tricky bits and pieces, but they stuck with it through late nights and early mornings. Okay, so this is definitely more casual. But I wanna say make it more urgent and use the first person. Okay, so I don't even need to repaste it. I just give that instruction. Okay. We're on a tight deadline to complete this technical project, and it's a real doozy. Excuse me. There are a lot of intricate components that we need to figure out, and we're burning the midnight oil to get it done. But we're determined to see it through, and our expertise is driving us forward. Failure is not an option, and we're going to push ourselves to the limit to succeed in the end. All right, I think that's actually pretty good. That's less formal than the original, but it does have a bit of urgency there by mentioning the tight deadline, and now it's in first person, so it sounds more like I'm saying it on behalf of my team. Okay, how about asking it to make it shorter and use language for a text message in Slack. Let's just say message in Slack. I think this knows what Slack is. We'll see. Team, tough project, tight deadline, intricate components. We worked hard, burned the midnight oil, driven by determination and expertise. We did it. Yeah, I suppose that's not too bad. But I feel like burning the midnight oil sounds a little bit too, adding that idiom for a text, I'm not sure if that would work. Okay, let's try this. Make it more detailed. Okay, add more detail. Hey team, I wanted to give you an update on our progress with the technical project. We've been working on this challenging project that requires a lot of intricate components, blah, blah, blah. While it's very long, we've been leveraging our individual strengths. Let's see if it uses the midnight oil. I don't see midnight oil there, so that's good. We got rid of that one. It's a relief to say that our hard work has paid off. Okay, good. So that's interesting. Now we could say, with more interesting syntax. This is one that I love to use. With more interesting syntax is asking it to use more variation in terms of sentence structure. So with more interesting syntax and slightly shorter. Okay? Now slightly shorter means it's not going to hopefully be one sentence. It'll just be not as long as this. Team, listen up. We just completed one heck of a project. It was tough with lots of intricate components to figure out and a super tight deadline, but we're determined to get it done, and our expertise drove us. Well, we were determined to get it done, and our expertise drove us forward. We worked collaboratively. What's wrong with me today? We worked collaboratively, leveraging each other's strengths to solve problems as they arose. And now, thanks to our shared sense of purpose, we can proudly say that we've completed the project successfully. Well done, everyone. So if you were trying to think about what we've done. I haven't really done anything. I haven't written anything. If you were trying to get to that very rough description, or not rough, let's say, that very formal sounding description to an announcement that you could send to your team via email, I think this could be a good candidate for a success. I would change a few things. I would maybe change leveraging each other's strengths and to solve problems as they arose. I might copy that specifically, and I might say, reword this. So let's try that. Reword this sentence. Okay, and then I'll give it that sentence. And see what we get. We collaborated as a team using our individual strengths to tackle any issues that cropped up along the way. I think that sounds better. I would probably go with that For some reason, I'm not crazy about the leveraging our strengths one. Not wild about that, but I think this is now looking better. So I might insert that in. So now you have this process of changing any details, adding anything, and I think it's really interesting. I love doing this process, figuring out how to work with the machine, try to understand how it thinks, and see what kind of results you can get. You can also start with an outline. So if you want to write something, you have a basic outline of what you want to do. You can give it the outline and then ask it to write several paragraphs or one paragraph. It's pretty interesting. Let's try one more just for fun. The perfect beach vacation. So I gave it this long, I'm going to give it this long description of a perfect beach vacation. And just to give you a sense of the language, I'm not going to read it. The perfect beach vacation is a dreamy escape from reality, a sun-soaked paradise of pristine sands and turquoise waters, where the only agenda is relaxation and rejuvenation. These days are spent lounging in a hammock or sunbathing on a towel, the sounds of waves providing the perfect soundtrack for lazy afternoons. So this sounds like a travel book or something, right? This sounds like it's too formal. I mean, who's this for, right? So it's an interesting description if you're a travel writer and you want to describe the perfect vacation. But what if you want to describe your vacation that you took? Well, again, you could start with an outline. You could give it the outline. So why don't we do this for fun? Now I'm going to say, turn this description into a bullet point outline. Okay, now we do a bullet point outline, and we get a bullet point outline. The perfect beach vacation is a dreamy escape from reality. Okay, stop. Simplify the bullet point outline. Okay, so we'll see what we get if we get a simpler one. I don't want the sun-soaked. I don't want all of that language. Okay, here we go. This is better. The perfect beach vacation is a relaxing escape. It offers pristine sand and turquoise water. Lounging, sunbathing, lazy afternoons are the norm. Evenings involve fresh seafood, tropical drinks, and loved ones. Nights are spent strolling, dancing, and enjoying warm weather. I like all of these except for the second sentence. So I'm going to delete the second sentence. And what I'm going to do is, now that we have the outline, let's imagine we're starting from the outline. Please write a short blog post. Let me do it actually for real, okay? Act as a well, we could use act as. Let's see. Act as a social media influencer who writes blog posts about travel experiences. Use the following outline to write a short blog post about, then I'll put in quotes, the perfect beach vacation. And then I'm going to include that I spent a few days with my best friends, Nigel and Lily, and we played golf and swam with turtles. Here is the outline. Okay, now we see what we get. Let's see what we get. I'm very curious to see. Okay, hey guys, if you're looking for the perfect beach vacation, look no further. I recently spent a few days with my friends Nigel and Lily, and we had an amazing time soaking up the sun, enjoying everything that the beach has to offer. We spent our days lounging at the beach, on the beach, sunbathing and swimming in the crystal turquoise waters. We even had the chance to play a round of golf, which was a great way to spend some time outside in the beautiful weather. One of the highlights was swimming with turtles. Okay, so this is a decent starting point. Now, I have some corrections here. I would want to say now maybe make it less like a travel guide and more casual. Okay, so I want another one. I don't want it to be so formal sounding. I feel like if you're looking for, sounds kind of salesy, you know. Let's see. You know what? Actually, you know what I would do here? Because I like everything else. I would just delete this part. Delete this, hey guys, are you interested? And I would say, I recently spent a few days at the beach with my best friends Nigel and Lily, and let me tell you, it was everything we needed and more. So I think what I would do is just get rid of the "are you in need of a relaxing beach vacation?" That sounds very salesy. It sounds very odd. It's trying to pitch me something, but everything else looks good. Our days were spent, right? When it came to evenings, we made sure to indulge in fresh seafood and tropical drinks. I may then combine these two because I actually kind of like these descriptions better than this, but I like the first paragraph of this better than this. So you kind of then mix and match, and then once you have a draft that you like, then you can do some manual changes, add some wording, change some wording, remove some things that you don't really enjoy, and then you've got something pretty solid. And this back and forth process, I think, is kind of the new way to write stuff, right? So think about that as a process. I think it's really interesting. I personally enjoy it quite a bit. All right. Hello. Maria is here. Good to have you. Yes, this is live. And Alejandro is here. Good to see you, Alejandro. Welcome, welcome. So if there are any questions on things like idioms, culture, grammar, pronunciation, whatever, let me know. I'll do my best to answer. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, check out my free course, Natural English Conversations. That's in the link in the description. That's free, as I mentioned. And you can get all my courses, or the courses on the website, rather, for 30% off per month for 12 months. So that's a pretty good deal as well if you want to do the monthly plan and get access to those courses. What else? Yeah, check out the Discord. I think it's a cool place to hang out. It's nice. All right. Now, we are going to get to adjectives, but first, I wanted to share a few words from the news. So I don't know if you've heard about, there's this trial that's been going on with a guy named Alex Murdo. I think his name is pronounced Murdo. And he apparently, pretty horrific, murdered his wife and son. And for some reason, because I think he thought that they were going to somehow cause him to go to jail, or there's some financial crimes or something going on. I'm not quite sure of the details of that. But anyway, he was sentenced, and that's very much in the news. So I thought that's an interesting word, sentence. What is that word there? And how is that used? So I want to spend a little time just taking a look at that, if that's okay. And then we can get back to some description stuff. Alejandro, I unfortunately cannot read your cannot read your comment there, but that's okay. Yeah, I know I'm usually earlier. Today I'm a little bit later than usual, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out my schedule. I'm trying to figure out the best time. I'm thinking the best time might be maybe like Friday morning, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but then I need to kind of make some changes. So I'll see what I can do. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to make it a little bit earlier, because honestly, earlier is usually better for me as well. But anyway, I'm drinking ginger tea. It's just ginger powder. It's really good. I really like it. It's my thing recently. Drinking ginger. Just ginger directly. I think it's just ground up ginger. It's very soothing on the stomach, the throat. I like it. Okay. So let's hop over to the video. I'm going to put my AirPod on as well so I can hear it. What we're going to do is learn 3 words. Anytime you learn a word, it's good to learn it in context. If you learn a word in context, then you're much more likely to remember it. You learned it in a specific situation, and that also hopefully makes your understanding of it deeper, right? If your understanding is deeper, then hopefully you can use it more easily, right? Not that you would necessarily need to use these words that often, but I think they are still useful. So we're going to take a look at a very short video from the sentencing of Alex Murdo, who apparently murdered his wife and son, which is crazy, and he was sentenced. Well, sentenced, what does that mean? Let's talk about it. But first, let's see it in context. So I'm going to play the first part of the video, and we'll stop it, and we'll explore the meaning, and then we'll look at a couple more words as well. Okay, here we go.
All right, Mr. Murdo, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments in the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdo. I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life.
I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life. So that's a key word there. I sentence, and I'm going to add it just so we have it on screen. I know I don't need to because you'd probably know how to spell that. But I sentence you for the rest of your natural life. You could put years there. This is something that you often hear when people are talking about, for example, how much time people have to spend in jail for something, in this case, murder. I sentence you for 10 years, or he was sentenced for a year, or something like that, right? So sentence here is used as a verb, and it's used to describe not that someone is guilty or not guilty, but to describe the punishment connected with the crime that apparently, or the decision was made that they are guilty. So the punishment associated with that guilty verdict is the sentence, right? Unless it's a fine or something, right? Because you could be sentenced to community service. You could be sentenced to a year in jail. You could be sentenced to life in prison in this case. Okay, so we've got sentence.
Wife Maggie Murdo, I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life.
Now we also hear another word there. I want you to listen for the word term.
Sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life.
So term is actually a very useful word. Notice here, the word that's used, term, is associated or right before the rest of your natural life, right? It is used in many more situations, but in this case, it's used to say the duration. So sentence is about the punishment, and then the term is how long it will happen for, right? You could say sentence directly, sentence to the rest of your natural life in prison, or you could say the term of the rest of your natural life. Over a term of, and then you state the amount of time, right? We also use in the short term, meaning a short period of time. that's not very specific, not very clear. We don't say exactly how long it is, but we say short-term, long-term, short-term growth, long-term growth, short-term growth, long-term growth, right? A term of maybe 6 months, right? A term of 6 months. We also sometimes call specific time periods in education terms. Now, this is not true for everyone because some of them are called semesters, but the term might be the few month period during the school year, and you might have the first term and the second term. But sometimes term is also used for the classes themselves, depending on the school. So it's very useful, and it's about this sort of duration or period of time. Very, very useful. Okay, let's look at one more.
For the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably loved so much, I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive.
All right. The guy's really nodding his head there. Now we have consecutive. And this is probably, of these three in this context, the most common, perhaps the most useful, I would say. So this word is consecutive. So if you have something that is consecutive and the adverb is consecutively, that means one after the other. First one, then the next, then the next. So if you say 3 consecutive months, that might be January, February, March, right? 3 consecutive years, 3 consecutive days, 3 consecutive hours, right? 2 consecutive life terms. That means he got life in prison for killing his wife, and now he's also getting the same for his son. That's the term of the sentence that he got. 2 of those without parole. I don't know if that's mentioned here, but parole is what happens if eventually you have good behavior. They may let you out of prison. So pretty horrifying, of course. But these are common words that I think we can pull out of this situation. I believe that in the background, that's his other son, who had a testimony that is all over my YouTube for some reason. They really want me to watch it. I have not watched it, but YouTube really, 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 really wants me to watch that. Okay.
Under the statute of sentences will run consecutive.
So these sentences will run consecutive. That means it's not like they're side by side. It's one followed by the next. So he would have to live, I don't know how that works. He would have, how many hundreds of years would he need to live to get out? I'm not sure. No, it's life. So it doesn't matter. If he lives to be 500, that's one. I don't know.
Under the statute involving possession of a weapon during a violent crime, there is no sentence where a life sentence is imposed on other indictments.
So there was another crime about the weapon that was used, but since he's already getting 2 consecutive life sentences, then there's no sentence for having that. So he's guilty of that, but there's no sentence.
That is the sentence of the court, and you are remanded to the State Department of Corrections.
All right. So that's it. I just wanted to share a few words from this video, and I hope you can use this method for picking out interesting vocabulary. If you see a video, you don't have to learn every word. Just grab a couple words, but then do a little diving. Learn the other uses of those words. See how you can use consecutive as an adverb consecutively. See how term can be used for education-related things, but also for a period of time, right? What about sentence? Is sentence just used in this case as a verb? Well, generally, but there are other meanings of sentence, so it's worth looking into the different meanings and the different uses. Always look at examples. always, always, always try to make your own examples. Make sure you understand it. If you can get some feedback, fantastic. By the way, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, check out my full courses in the links in the description. You can get a free course, Natural English Conversations. That is also in the links in the description. Okay. Back to the forest. This is better, right? I like this better. I prefer the forest. I can't read that name. Bod, B-A-D-R-E, hello. And M-A-C-I-E-J, hello. What time is it at your place? Yes, I'm in New York State, so we're on Eastern Standard Time. It's around 4 p.m., something like that. Supposed to go live at noon. We go live at 3. What are you gonna do? Oh, it's 3:30, I think. It's very late today. Very late. I need to get on that. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to talk a bit about hyphenated adjectives. Yeah, I can see your comments. B-A-D-R-E, Hama. I can see your comments. Absolutely. Okay. So let's talk about building adjectives with hyphens. Adjectives, you could say, are the decorations of the English language in a way. And so they're very powerful because you can add a lot of description and meaning to your sentences when you use them well. And of course, that means you should learn a lot of adjectives that are out there. Learn them. But there is some flexibility with adjectives that's very interesting. And that is when you use adjectives that have hyphens, because sometimes you can make your own. That's where the flexibility comes in. That's where they are flexible. So what we're going to do is take a look at some common hyphenated adjectives. And we're going to talk about how you can do this. We're going to talk about how you can kind of make your own. Now, there are some that are very common, and you don't want to just, you want to check them to see if they're common. Because sometimes if you make your own and it's very odd sounding, it might confuse people. So there's a line there. It's not sort of total freedom, but there's flexibility. Okay, there's a lot of flexibility. So why don't we start with self-confident? If you say that you are self-confident, of course, that just means that you believe in yourself, right? And you are secure in how you feel and who you are, right? But notice the structure of this. That's very important. We have self-confident. If you look at each one of these, self is focused on you, right? And confident means you feel good. So it's about you because it's self-confident. But if you say, for example, that you're very self-conscious, then you're using the same self, but you're then putting in a new word after the hyphen, very self-conscious. I'm a very self-conscious person, which means kind of the opposite. You're always self-aware too much. You're critical of yourself. You're kind of embarrassed of a lot of things, right? So that would be another word or another adjective using the same self hyphen that allows you to express something different, right? So just think about that words have pieces, and sometimes within one word there are different pieces, but sometimes the pieces are very clear because you have the hyphen between them, right? So what could we do if we wanted to make up an adjective here? Could we say, for example, instead of self-confident, could I say very self-reliant? Yes, absolutely. Self-reliant. You rely on yourself. Okay. What if I say I'm very self-critical? So critical of myself. Again, I think that would be okay. Is it a normal thing to say? Not particularly, but I've definitely heard that. Very self-critical. So this is where we start to get into the flexibilities. You start to think, oh, okay, so this self thing means about me. Now I can kind of build my own. But there are limits. If you say, I'm very self-stupid, for example, then that doesn't have a clear meaning, because if you would just say, I'm stupid, that has the same meaning, right? So you can't put any word there. It has to make sense in regards to the meaning of self. So self-confident, self-critical means that those are feelings I can have which can direct to me. Right? When I feel confidence, it's directed at me. When I feel critical, it's kind of directed at me. But when I'm stupid, it's just my behavior, right? So that's just something to consider. Think about how we can play with this, but within the limits of what actually makes sense, okay? What about goal-oriented? Okay, again, goal. All right, I know goal. Oriented is sort of focusing on that, centered around that. So if you are goal-oriented, then you're kind of focused on goals. I'm a person who really cares about goals. All right, well, what if I want to add other things instead of goal there? Can I do that? Play around with it. What are you? Success-oriented. Okay, so it's maybe a little different than a goal. All right, money-oriented. Okay, I really care about money. Maybe clout-oriented. I care about what other people think of me. I want a really good reputation. Family-oriented. Okay. Intellectually oriented. All right. I'm an intellectually oriented genius, right? Okay, that's a little bit over self-confident, but but whatever you want to say. Right, but then you could go the other way. You could say goal-oriented, or you could say maybe goal-specific. If something is very goal-specific, then it's related only to the goal and nothing else. All right? Goal-focused, you could say. Similar to goal-oriented there, probably, right? All right. So again, playing around with that, we're working on either side of this hyphen, and that's what makes it interesting. Now, lighthearted is a little, I think, different because I think that there's less room to play with this one because of the meaning of lighthearted. I've even seen lighthearted, I've seen it written as one word. There's this interesting track where once these combinations become so common, sometimes the hyphen is removed and they become a single word, right? So, for example, lighthearted could probably be written as a single word without a hyphen, or could be written with the hyphen. And it's this sort of gradual movement. Once something gets really, really common, eventually the hyphen just gets dropped, okay? But if you said heavy-hearted, the opposite, obviously that's going to have the opposite meaning. Heavy heart with a heavy-hearted sigh. I walked back into the room and waited for the decision, right? A heavy-hearted sigh. So I'm describing the sigh. Notice that I'm putting these in front of nouns, right? A goal-oriented person, a self-confident leader, right? A family-oriented father, a light-hearted maybe joke, a light-hearted or a heavy-hearted sigh. Right? All of these it's a similar sort of thing that we're doing. We're usually putting them in front of a noun, which is what we usually do with adjectives to describe things, okay? Now, for this one, I think there's, as I said, less room to play. Light-headed, you could say. light-handed, light-footed, I suppose. But for those, I would recommend maybe looking up the ones that are common that people actually use, because it's not quite the same as the other two. How about well-educated? The reason I like well-educated is because you can add a lot of things after well. A well-educated child, a well-groomed dog, right? A well-manicured lawn, a well-respected dentist, right? Could I use revered? Well-revered, I suppose. Although revere might be I'm just thinking out loud here, it might be already strong enough so that it doesn't need well, right? A well-received novel, that would be good. A well-received movie, well-reviewed. If people like this restaurant, it's a well-reviewed restaurant. Well, flip it around and say poorly instead. It's a poorly reviewed restaurant. There you go, right? A poorly received novel. There you go, right? So there's a lot you can play around with there, and you do have to be aware of some norms. For example, if you put good there, a good educated, it doesn't sound right. We should put well there. Poorly would be the word we want there to make this sound natural, right? Using poor, the adjective, doesn't work, okay? So that's just something to keep in mind. Here we have goal, a noun used here, right? Here we have light as an adjective, right? But then well is an adverb, right? So we have different types of words at the beginning of these, but once we put them together, they become adjectives, right? Nouns can become adjectives, and we can make adjectives out of adverbs and nouns and adjectives, which is kind of confusing, but that's what it is. All right, how about short-tempered? Short-tempered. Ah, okay. How about long-tempered? No. Okay, so that's where sometimes you just have to eventually figure out that some don't work. Because when we talk about a temper, usually we only describe it as short, and if it's not short, the opposite of short for temper is not long. That's why. It's the meaning. A temper that's long is just patient. So you would use a different word, and that's why it sounds strange to say long-tempered, right? Short-fused would be pretty common. And we could play around with that one as well, but I think you get the idea. So what I suggest you do is find a list of these hyphenated adjectives. Start playing around with them. Make sure you Google them, or to see if other people are using them. I would say if you come up with one that's totally new that no one has ever said before, then it's probably not a great one. But if other people are kind of using it and saying it and expressing things with that, then yeah, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine to use. I just gave you a few examples because I wanted to give you a sense of these hyphenated adjectives. If you have any questions about how to use these, let me know. Just leave a comment. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and also get my free course, Natural English Conversations, in the links in the description. All right. I am just curious if I have any adjective variations for short. What are some adjective variations for short-tempered? Just curious. I'm asking ChatGPT here. Oh, it's just giving me other adjectives. No, I want only hyphenated adjective variations. Here are some hyphenated adjectives: irritable-tempered, testy-tempered, touchy-tempered, cranky-tempered, snappy-tempered, grumpy-tempered, edgy-tempered, tetchy-tempered, peckish-tempered, fretful-tempered. I haven't heard any of those before. I've never heard any of those. Ever. All right. Gillenson is here. Christina is here. Hello. I took one of your English courses on Udemy called Building Your English Brain, and recently I came across your channel, and I'm here to learn from you, buddy. Hello, Christian. Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that. Gillenson says, mind-blowing performance. Energy consumption conservation. Energy consumption conservation? Yeah, I think that could work. Rarely and seldom, says Bad. Yeah, use rarely. Rarely is much more common, I would say. And Bear, it is going well. Thank you. How are you? How are you? There's no difference between rarely and seldom. The only difference between rarely and seldom is the frequency that they're used. And I would say that rarely is far more frequently used than seldom. Rarely is much, much more common, especially in American English. Especially in American English. Okay. Oops, I'm just gonna pop over to here. We're on Reddit. Oops, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to change the zoom a little bit. There we go. Hey. Oh, there we go. Hey, there we go. Hey, there we go. English as a second language, Reddit, just out of curiosity. What is this called? It's in Slovakia. What does that mean? This is an apartment building. What is the this part? The tree? What? Why the past tense here in this picture for an ongoing action? Hi, Bryce. Brought you some more eggs. Because once you've done it, it's done. It's a past action. So if you say, so the way that we talk about things, when we're doing them, they're currently ongoing. Ongoing actions, we would use ing, right? Present continuous tense. So if you said, I'm bringing you some more eggs, that would be used to describe you on the way. So I have the eggs, and here I go. I'm on the way, and I bring them to you. Once I bring them, that means they're here. Now it's done. So I would say, hey, I brought you some eggs. Do you need these? You're baking a cake, and I would say, hey, I brought you some eggs. Do you need some eggs? It's done as soon as I arrive, because the I'm bringing eggs is what I would use to describe everything leading up to it being done. Once it's done, it's in the past. Could I trust ChatGPT with grammar-related questions? Generally, no. I mean, it's pretty good at explaining grammatical things, but there are always errors. It's going to have errors. I think it's useful for grammar to get explanations, but don't treat it as the ultimate source of truth, right? The sentence, have you rested enough, is grammatically correct. It is in the present perfect tense. And it is a question that asks about the completion of an action that started in the past and has some relevance to the present. Have you rested enough? Oh, well, it's right. In that case, it's totally right. I was taught that dining establishment is a posh-sounding phrase, but I could have used establishment in this way. Not all restaurants are unsafe. Many establishments have strict control measures. I mean, establishments are just used to establishment. That word is just used to describe businesses in general. Bryce, isn't it time for you to go help your mother? Why does this sentence start with isn't it? Haven't seen this kind of grammar usage in real life. Bryce, isn't it time? Really? I'm surprised by that question. Isn't it time for you to go help your mother? That's a very common phrasing. Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it time is very, 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 very common. Isn't it cold outside? Hey, why aren't you wearing a coat? Isn't it cold outside? Isn't it time to go? Isn't it time to eat? Isn't it ready yet? I'm trying to think of examples. Yeah, there are a lot. That's very common. I'm surprised that person has not seen that before. Hey guys, I'm active learning English for 1 year. I can watch serials and movies on English, but I still have a problem with speaking. I create a video about my English experience if somebody has tips for better learning. I appreciate your help. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a day today, a little earlier than usual. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. It's great to have you as always. Those listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. And those watching, thank you for doing so. If I missed any questions, I wasn't really watching the chat too carefully. I apologize. If you have any questions about adjectives or descriptions, let me know. Again, like button and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. Jump in the Discord if you want to connect. That's the best place to honestly get in touch with me because I'm always there. That is free. And you can also get a free course, Natural English Conversations. That is also in the links in the description. And I hope you have a good weekend. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.